From the studios of the Pemberton Township Board of Education's Channel 14, it's time to find out what's cooking. Here now is the head of the Food Services Department at Pemberton Township High School and your host, Tim Paroli.
Hello again. Welcome to another edition of What's Cooking. I'm Tim Paroli, and through this series of programs that we've been filming for you, we have been building up on teaching you on basic techniques in the kitchen. Today we're going to go a little further. We're going to teach you how to make a pastry or a pie shell. We've shown this once before. I'm going to show it to you again today, and I promise you in a future show we're going to show you how, once you've mastered these pie shells, we're going to show you how to make some wonderful desserts. Today we're going to step you up just a little bit, and by making a ham spinach custard pie in a pie crust. It's called a QuicheLorraine. But we're going to build on our basic pie crust, and that's what we're going to begin to show you today. Then we're going to teach you a little bit on how to get these ingredients ready to saute them all off. So to make this quiche, we have our ingredients. The first thing you got to have, don't tell me you're going to buy a pie shell. Make it yourself. So step one for you is turn your oven up to 400 degrees. Whenever you're working in a pastry, even if it's going to be a custard pie, you're always going to start the oven off hot. So put the oven on when you begin to make your pie shell. If you didn't, wait for the oven to reach temperature. Don't put the shell into an oven that is not hot. You're going to have a problem if you do. The way we're going to begin is we're going to start with flour. We're going to teach you in a ratio because it's very easy to work that way. We're using 3 parts of flour, 2 parts of fat, and 1 part of water. And the method that we're teaching you is a pastry method. So we start out with our flour. And what I did today is instead of just using all-purpose flour, which you can use, if you can get some cake flour, just put a couple handfuls of that in your flour mixture, and it'll make it a much more tender crust. Now we have our shortening. And for making a pie shell, what a lot of people like to use is a fat that is hard. In other words, this is room temperature shortening, and it's nice and hard and clear and white, and that's what we want. A nice, strong fat. A lot of people use lard. They find that it makes a very nice pie shell. Butter is not good. It has too much water in it, and it is not a hard enough fat. So any good shortening will work. And then what we're going to do is just cut this in. And that's exactly when they tell you that you're making a pastry. Use the side of a spoon and just cut it in. Get yourself a nice big bowl to work in so you can move the bowl around and you have plenty of room to get that mixed up. And we're going to just cut this up and break up that shortening into little tiny chunks. And we want them all to be even in size. We don't want to mash them all together. We want to cut them till they're the size of shelled walnuts or size of peas, nice and small. So we want to break up the shortening, and we want to cover it all nice and neat with the flour. Now at this point, we're going to put a little bit of salt in here. So we're going to sprinkle a little bit of salt across, and that's just to give the taste of the pie crust. We want to get the flavor when we enjoy this. We want it to come out. We don't want to put too much salt in there because that will tend to make the pie crust tough. So we cut that up a little more. And I'm going to tell you, when you're working on a pastry crust like this, be sure that you have enough time to finish it. Be sure that you're not going to try and rush through it. Take a time of day when you don't have a lot to prepare in your kitchen, and then make up a bunch of these pie shells. Then you can either bake them off or wrap them in a saran and throw them in the freezer. But you want to make sure that you take enough time to cut this up real nice. So there we go. Once we have that, pretty well the way I want it, now we're going to add our water. Now if you're using measurements, the amount that I have today, I have approximately 2 quarts of flour, and I have about 1 quart of shortening. And I'm going to use only 1.5 cups of water to this. We're going to add that water all at once to this, and it's going to be just enough till this sticks together and makes a rough looking dough. If that dough is real smooth and good looking, you've ruined it. You've taken that and made a nice smooth good looking dough. You're in trouble as far as a pie shell goes. put that in there, and it will come off the bottom of the bowl, and it will loosely hang together and be rough and coarse looking. Once you have achieved that, you're going to stop mixing once you've got that all off the bowl. Okay, so we've got that, and that's just the way we want it to look. Now you're going to look at this and you're going to say, my goodness, you didn't mix that very well. I didn't. I want it to be like that because if we mix this real smooth, it's going to be a very tough dough. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to move this bowl over here because we're going to roll out a shell for you and show you how to make that pie shell. So what we're going to do is take a handful of flour, for real, and we're going to put that right out on the board. Then we're going to flour our hands up a little bit. I want to grab one of our tins so we have that handy. That's going to be right over here. And we're going to scoop up a little bit of this dough, about the size of a softball, and now we're going to squeeze it together. And when you look at the dough, you should be able to see the white shortening against the tan of the dough that you have prepared from the flour, and that is what you want. You don't want that mixed together so well that you can't tell them apart. You want to see the difference in them. So we've got what would appear at first time that you do this kind of a lot of flour on the bottom. And I'm keeping that kind of round in shape. Now we're going to dust that again with a little more flour. And we're going to roll this from the middle and out. We don't want to roll back and forth. We just want to press that and very gently. Don't try to get this all done in one roll. Just take your time. However many pushes it's going to take, you want to get this to where it is approximately 1/4 of an inch thick. And I just continue to push that out. Now, what you can do, if this is your first time, you can take your shell, your pie tin, and set it over top of it and see how far you have to go. At this point, if it's not working out that it's nice and round, then wherever it is not round, that's the way you're going to roll it. So we roll it in the direction so that we get that so that it is plenty big enough to cover our pie tin. Once we have done that, pick up the edge of the dough and make sure that it is the same thickness all the way around. After you have done that, fold it in half. Take your pie shell, slide it under the dough, and then unfold it, just like that. Now, once you have unfolded this, stand the dough up into the shell. Just like this. Stand it up and push it in there. Don't stretch the dough. Stand it and push it in there. If you have a little tear, you just make the repair as you go. Once that's pressed in there, now you can gently fold it down and then take your hands and give that a nice little push as you turn it. And push it and watch the edge of that just fall right off of there. You see, that's how you get those trimmed so nice. So now you've got your pie shell all ready to go. And that is how we're going to prepare any of our pie shells for any of the pies that we're going to do, whether it's going to be a custard pie like today or a sweet dessert pie. The last thing you want to do is maybe trim up the edge just a little bit, make it nice and fancy so it looks really pretty. Trim that edge up as you go around. And as you continue to make a few more shells, you'll find that it gets easier and easier. If your first one does not work out, take that and throw that first one away. If you have to roll it 2 or 3 times, get rid of it, because it's not going to be worth it when you work on that pie shell and then put your fillings into it and can't cut through the crust. You're going to be frustrated, and I don't want that to happen to you. So we have our pie shell ready to go. We're now going to concentrate on the filling. What we're going to do is we're going to put a small saute pan on our fire. And what I've got here are the meats and the vegetables that we're going to put in there. So we're going to put our saute pan on. And we're going to just let that heat up while I cut up a little bit of bacon. And that's going to be the fat that we're going to use in our custard. So what I want to do is move some of this away off the board. And the amounts of this are up to you. If you're trying to control salt in your diet or you're trying to control the amount of fat, then you can change any of these ingredients that you want. But these are going to really put a nice flavor into this pie. So we're going to cut that bacon and then cut it the other way. And remember, this is a pie, so I don't want these real small. We'll cut them in little half-inch slices there and right into our pan. And that is already beginning to sizzle a little bit. I'm going to turn that up just a little bit so we get that to render the fat. And what we mean by that is we want the heat to melt the fat from the bacon, and that's what it's going to do. So while that's cooking, I'm going to cut a little bit of ham. We're going to take a couple slices right there. And we're going to cut them real long and thin, or a julienne style. So we go like that. Nice and long and thin. All right, and we're going to take that. I put this pie shell here. We're going to sprinkle that ham along the bottom, just half of it, just like that. Throw a little bit more right there. Now we're going to take, and put the pie shell out of the way, some of our spinach. And I'm going to take a handful of fresh spinach, and we're going to just cut right next to each slice. Just cut that up nice so it'll lay flat. And we're going to turn that whole batch and cut it again. So we've got that all cut up real nice. Get our stems out of the way. And then we're going to put that into our pie shell. Then on top of that, some more of the ham. And try to spread it all out so that no matter what slice you get, it's got the ingredients that you want in there. And then we're going to cut some Swiss cheese. And you can change the type of cheese that you want. However, the Swiss is going to give you a real nice flavor. Now I'm going to cross-cut that the other way now, because this we want to melt. So that, we cut that right up. And we're going to throw that right into here. And then we're going to take and shake our bacon a little bit here. It should come loose in the pan. Give it a toss or two. We want to get a little bit of the color onto the bacon. And then we're going to take and crack a couple of eggs for our filling. And our filling is a custard, so that you already know that that's going to be eggs that we're going to beat, and we're going to put a little milk with this. And then we'll go right into the oven. So we take our eggs. We're going to put a little nutmeg in there, just a pinch of salt, and a pinch of pepper. I'm also going to pinch a little cayenne in here, and I mean just a little bit. Okay. I'm going to wipe my hands off after handling the cayenne. And now we're going to beat that up. You want to make sure that you have the eggs completely beaten so that when we add our milk to that, it's going to make a nice, smooth custard. So we add the milk. Now I'm going to switch places so you can see how we're going to do this. We take the pie, and we're going to kind of drizzle this all around, just like that. And we're going to just let that come right up, halfway up on that pie. And don't worry, because we're going to have a lot of liquid coming out of the spinach, too. So that goes in there like that. And now we're going to take, and we're going to remove some of our bacon. What I want to do is we're going to add some bacon fat to this. So we're going to put the bacon in there without the fat. So I'm going to hold the pan nice and level and just let the bacon fall right off the top. Now once we have that, some of the bacon fat's going to go in there because we didn't add any to our mixture, and that goes all around it, just like that. And now this is going to go into the oven. Just a splash of the fat there. And we're going to head into our oven with this. Remember, the oven is very hot, 400 degrees. And we're going to bake that till it's a nice golden color. So while I got a mess to clean up to show you what we're going to serve with our quiche pie, I'd like you folks at home to watch this.
My hero? Isaiah Thomas. Kevin Costner. Mr. Wong.
These are teachers, but to the kids they've reached, they're heroes.
My hero? Mrs. Wooten. If I don't get through to that child, who knows, maybe no one else will.
Teachers have the power to wake up young minds, to be heroes, to make a difference. Reach for that power. Teach. Find out how by calling 1-800-45-TEACH. Be a teacher. Be a hero.
Welcome back. Our quiche is in the oven. We're going to take a look at it and see how much longer it's got to go. Our break isn't as long as it seems. It's actually longer today. A custard pie like this takes a half hour to cook. So this has been in for about 15 minutes. We're going to take a knife, stick it into the bottom of the pie, and pull it out. And if it comes out completely clean, it's ready. Now this is not quite ready. It should be ready in a couple of more minutes. The outside of the crust is beginning to brown, and that's what we want. So it's starting to look really, really nice. It's bubbling away there, as you can see, and we're going to give it some time. And towards the end of the program, when we slice that, the pie we made is the one you're going to see. Now, what I want to prepare to go along with that, since we've got a lot of meat and the pastries there, we're going to make a nice, what's called a winter mix vegetable. So I've got a real low fire going here. We're going to put a little saute pan on. And we're going to go over on how we cut some vegetables and how we get them ready for service. And we're going to have a nice little bowl here that we're going to put our fresh sauteed vegetables in there. The thing that we're working on is trying to put out onto the table something that is fresh, something new and different. It's got to taste good, and it's also now got to be good for you. So we're going to start out with some broccoli, and we're going to show you how we can trim up broccoli without it falling apart and how to peel a carrot. And these are nice fresh broccoli. And what we do with those is we're going to look at the broccoli spears as we have them, and we're going to cut them about halfway. We're going to discard this part. Although a lot of times we keep this and we'll use this for soup, we're not going to make a soup today. We're going to cut these all in half. And we're going to get rid of the stalk bottoms. What we're going to do now is turn that up, and looking at the bottom of that, we're going to cut that halfway down, and then I'm going to pull that apart. And when you do that, the spears will stay together. Now we're going to pull that again until we have all of our vegetables the size that we want. Now, what is going to determine the size of the other vegetables is how large or how small we have made the broccoli. So that is going to be what guides us into making our other vegetables. There we are. We cut halfway down and just pull them away, and they will stay together. You'll have very few of these little buds that will fall off. If you were to just cut through that with the knife, what will happen when you cut through that, you're going to cut a lot of those little buds and blossoms off, and you don't want to do that. All right, we're going to take our carrot, and holding the large end down, we're going to peel our carrot. All right, we're going to do 2 of those. And these are very small, narrow, very tender carrots. So they're going to be very sweet and delicious, and that's what we want to have. All right, so we discard the skins. We're going to cut the 2 ends off of it. And we're going to halve these so that they're more manageable in the pan, on the plate, and on the board. And we're just going to put the knife on top of that and cut them in half. And that's why we put our hand on top. If the carrot rolls around, we don't want to have a finger off or anything. So if we have a little crooked piece of carrot, that's not going to hurt. So we just take that, set the knife on top of the carrot, and then once we lay them on the flat side, we can then make them into as small or as thin as we want. And that's what we're doing. We're going to make them nice and thin so that they will cook. They can be a little bit crunchy, but we don't want them to be so crispy that they're not fun to eat. Got a little bit of a purple onion here that's going to add a lot of nice color. It's going to add a real nice flavor to it too. Except that these, we don't want to pick up too many of these, so we're going to cross-cut them nice and small. Now, I have all of that ready to go, and we're going to pull a little bit of our scallions, and we're leaving the rubber band on them, and that's an easy way to handle them. We're going to pack them all together, and on the other board, I'm going to just cut those roots right off. And we have the other end that we used on another program. We have them ready now, and what I want to do, cut this other one right off here. There we go. And if you notice, the size of those are going to be about the size of the carrots. So we are ready to go with that. Now, our pan is nice and warm. We're going to step up our fire a little bit. And these vegetables are going to be sautéed. However, we're going to sauté them in the right order. Now, what I'm telling you by the right order is we're going to cook the vegetables that take the longest time first. And I'm also going to cook the vegetable that I want the most flavor out of first. So that gives us two vegetables that we're going to do, and that is going to be the onion and the carrot. We want the carrot so that it will be tender, and we want the onion so that it will be cooked completely, and we'll have that flavor throughout the vegetables. I'm making sure that all of these are nice and thin. There they are. Okay, so we're going to put our sauté vegetable right in there. And if you've been afraid to try using those little frying pans that you have, try them with just a vegetable. With the first vegetable you do, if you just put a little bit of onion in there, that's a perfect food to start with if you're going to learn to flip fry or to sauté something. And what you can do with that, if you're really, you know better than me, if you're going to be afraid of that, put an oven mitt on, and then you can learn to flip fry them just like that. Now, those onions have started. We're going to put our carrots right in there. And we're making sure that the carrots are laying in there nice and flat so that we get as much of the heat from the bottom of the pan right in there. Now we're going to begin to season this with a little bit of white pepper and some salt. Now you will even notice when you're cooking that the carrots themselves will change a little bit. The ends of the carrots, you'll see as they begin to cook, they're going to become a little bit translucent. You will just begin to see them start to cook and soften a little bit. So we take them and roll them around. Now we're doing this because this is going to give us a much different flavor than a boiled vegetable. And the reason it's going to give us a different flavor is when you boil vegetables, first of all, most of the flavor goes into the water, and we drain that off. When we saute vegetables, the temperature that we're cooking these vegetables is 400 degrees. Water, when it boils, is only, give them a turn here, is only 212 degrees. So these are going to take on a fried or even a roasted kind of a flavor, if you will. So we've got them. The green will intensify a lot. Now we're going to lay the broccoli in there. And I'm making sure that I push the spears or the heavy part of the broccoli right down onto the bottom of the pan so that that is going to cook the most, and that's what we want it to do. So we've got that all in there. Now the olive oil is going to give this a real nice flavor. However, I will tell you that whenever we're cooking any type of a cabbage, and the broccoli is nothing more than the cabbage with the college education here, all cabbages need some fat. It's going to bring out the flavor, and it's going to allow them to cook a little better. So we have some of the olive oil in there, and we're going to add just a little bit of butter to this just to give it a butter flavor. And that's all we're going to add. And that goes right into the middle. Now I want to sweeten these up a little bit, and we're going to throw a little bit of white wine in here, rather, to splash that around. And you're going to hear this will hiss and steam up real nice, and that's what we want. However, if you're doing this for the first time at home, take your pan away from the fire and put your wine right around the outside. And then return it back to the fire and let it finish cooking. And you will see that the broccoli will begin to change its color and look a little different. And that's what we want. The color is going to intensify more and more and more. So we're going to turn these around. We're going to just turn them over right now, just like that. So that now we're going to cook the blossoms. And as I turn these over, you'll see that the colors are really bright. And that's what we're after. There we go. And now we're going to shut that off. And this is a great way to set up a vegetable that you don't have to drain. You're not handling a big pot of hot water. We're going to retrieve our quiche now from our oven. And there it is. It's all set. Get that right out where I can get a little grab on it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to support this quiche on the bottom, just like that, and bring it over. So we've got a nice, bubbly little pie here. I have to get a plate for you. And I want to put our vegetables next to this so that you can see what a difference a roasted or fried or sauteed vegetable is going to look like. And we have a bit of juice in the bottom of the pan there that's going to go right in there with it. And then as we turn this over, our onions are going right on top. There we go. So we've got a nice sauteed vegetable. And we're going to take a chunk out of our pie. And that crust should cut very easily. And then we're going to lift that piece out. Something a little smaller here. There we go. I'm going to break the crust all the way across the bottom, both sides, and then I'm going to lift this out. There we go. Just like that. Now remember that this pie was in the oven for about 30 minutes. And remember that we started this at 400 degrees. So when you're going to be preparing a pie crust, that you always have the oven very high. It's important that we have the temperature hot enough to fry the pastry, because that's what we're after. So a little bit of quiche and some fresh vegetables out of your own oven, and you're going to be very proud to serve it. Thank you for watching.
Look at this. The marijuana can mess you up. Right. We've been getting high for what, 15 years? Nothing's ever happened. Did I get into other drugs and start mugging people? Nah, didn't do anything. In fact, I'd say I'm exactly the same as when I smoked my first joint.
Eddie, did you even look for a job today?
No, Ma.
Marijuana can make nothing happen to you, too.
Oh, hey, what's going on? Shh, Smokey's coming.
What are you guys up to?
Oh.
Be careful with matches and campfires. Remember, only you can prevent forest fires.
Sorry, force of habit.
Bummer.
You're watching
Channel 14.